Good morning, everyone. A happy Career Exploration Month, happy CTE Month, happy Black History Month to everybody. This is your main man, Gavaskar Reid, Industry Engagement Manager from the Career and Technical Education Office within the New York City Department of Education. Many of you here today are a part of our CTE portfolio, our Career and Technical Education portfolio. We represent 130 plus high schools throughout New York City, 60,000 plus students, 300 CTE programs, and we cover everything imaginable from automotive to the construction trades, to information technology, to business and finance, to hospitality and tourism, to healthcare, to media technology, all of the skill trades, everything in between. And we're going to have a very exciting discussion today from some major celebrities who are involved in facilities management. And I know many of you today, you saw the big names on the flyers. You saw Blackstone, you saw Facebook, which is now Meta, you saw Netflix, you saw Pratt Institute. And I know that these names caught your attention today. So very, very thrilled to have you all here today. I want this to be an interactive session, all right? So this is not just gonna be me talking. It's not just gonna be our panelists talking today. I wanna hear from you all. All right, I want you all to please feel free to use the chat box, introduce yourselves, tell us which school you're from, tell us what your CTE program is, and tell us any questions that you have for any of our panelists. And feel free to also unmute, all right? I'm gonna give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves and talk about their careers and different career pathways that are available to you. And after they talk, please raise your hand. It's been 2 years now, and if you don't know how to raise your hand, I think you're bugging, but you know how to do it, all right? You click on the raise hand icon, all right? And feel free to unmute. And welcome to all of the CTE programs and the CTE kids, the non-CTE kids, welcome. I know that when I was in high school, there were so many different careers out there. And a lot of folks who are parents and a lot of folks who are community members, they may be familiar with health or law, or, you know, those are the typical things. We know about doctors and lawyers. These are some of the same careers we hear about over and over and over, but there's so much more opportunities out there for you guys. And me, when I was in high school, I had a limited view of career opportunities, and I wished I had the amount of career days and panel discussions that we are making available to you all. So we are doing this because we love you guys. And as adults, we're thinking about when we were young people that we wished somebody could have given us guidance and direction and advice. So that's the reason why we're doing this, all right? There's no money involved in this. There's no obligation on our part. We're doing this out of altruism. We're doing this because we love education and we want to make sure that we do our part in giving back to the industry. And we want to make sure that we do our parts as responsible professionals to provide very sage advice to you all right? So I'll ask that you keep yourselves on mute until it's time for us to do our question and answer. And again, today's discussion, we are talking about careers in facilities management. Now, the first question that I have for all of the students and staff members who are in attendance, the first question I have for you before I turn it over to our panelists, what do you think facilities management is? What in the world do you think facilities management entails? I want you to please drop your thoughts in the chat box. I want to see who has an understanding of what facilities management is about. What comes to mind? What are some of the job titles that come to mind? What are some of the responsibilities that come to mind? We have one student that says that, does this have to do with creative? Is it like being a creative director? Is it maintenance of a building? Is it building management? All right, we have some good stuff so far. Custodial work. All right, what is facilities management? Is this a glorified way of saying that I'm a janitor? What is it about? Building maintenance, we're seeing a lot of comments that saying this has to do with building maintenance. Give me some other skill sets and some other job titles that come to mind when you hear facilities management. All right, so as you guys are responding to the chat, I want to introduce our panelists. And I'm gonna ask for each of our panelists just to say your name, your job title, which company you work for. And I'm going to start with Miss Regina Ford Cahill.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Regina Ford Cahill here. I am currently the chair of the undergraduate programs in construction management and a master's program in facilities management and real estate practice at Pratt Institute here on 14th Street in Manhattan.
Right.
I represent these kind of old guard facility manager who sort of fell into the field, but you'll learn more about opportunities as we go through today. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good morning.
Thank you, Regina. Next, let's hear from Alexandra Liz.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alexandra Liz. Everyone can call me Alex. I work at Blackstone, which is a financial and asset management firm in Midtown. My title is I work at transaction management and workplace strategy, partnering with our facilities team. I'll speak a little bit more about that when the time comes.
Thank you, Alex. Next, let's hear from Jose Loren.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Jose Loren. I'm a facilities operations program manager at Meta, or formerly known as Facebook. And because I have some fellow folks from the Bronx, I got to shout out the Bronx. I'm born and raised in the Bronx. Been in the field for about 15 years, and I'd love to tell you more about it.
Great, good to see you again, Jose. And finally, last but not least, let's hear from James Camille.
James Camille, we're gonna shout out I'm from Brooklyn, so I'll give a shout out to the Brooklyn people. But I'm living in LA. I moved to LA last year for Netflix. So I manage the United States, Canada, and Latin America's corporate portfolio. So my official title is UCAN and LATAM Director of Cruise. Cruise stands for Corporate Real Estate, Employee Health, Workplace, and Security.
All right.
Sorry.
Yep. All right. Terrific. Thank you all. So let's just welcome all of our panelists today. Now, I'm looking through the chat box and I asked, what comes to mind when you think of facilities management? I saw some people say maintenance, other trades, construction, automotive, maintenance, organization, electrician, boiler, construction, plumbing. And Regina, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want you to give us an overview of what exactly is facility management is about. What is that about exactly? And are our students on the right track in some of the answers that they've given so far?
Okay, I'm going to just share my screen. Okay. All right, I'm assuming everybody can see it. Thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay.
We see it.
So this is a presentation that the IFMA Foundation, which stands for International Facility Management Association Foundation, which is the arm of the organization that deals with careers, training, and educational opportunities for folks to enter facilities management. So facility management might be in your future, and here's why it might be right for you. So what is a facility manager? So facility manager is someone who's supporting people in the places where they live and work. They help maintain the quality of life in the built environment, managing the systems, the processes, people, place, and the technology. These are some of the areas that a facility manager has to think about: project management, real estate and property management, operations and maintenance. We're very much connected to environment and the sustainability, security and emergency preparedness, finance and business, strategic planning and leadership, the human factors, how you make people comfortable in their work and living spaces, communications and information technology. So there's a lot of moving parts, and you'll learn that a lot of folks sort of specialize in these particular areas. As you can see, there's a wider range of arenas, with no pun intended, with the baseball field in the middle, for people to work. It's all sectors of business and all sectors of living and recreation. What's in it for you? Well, right now, there's a really big need for facility managers. If you can see me on the screen, I have basically white hair, and so we are somewhat aging out, and we need to fill the field with competent people who have the skills to move to the next century. There's lots of jobs opening. Our graduates from programs and from certificate programs have about 100% job placement. There's secure jobs, there's great salaries. You have to pull from a broad range of skills, and there's always continuous education. One of the things that we don't think about often is, as the facility or building manager, is actually helping to save the world, because we need to look at the positive trends in facility management, in energy conservation, clean air and water, health and wellness. We have architects now designing spaces that promote health and wellness. Economic development, and the future of work is really in a sustainable environment. You get to play with the latest technology. One of the things that is moving so quickly is, we all know about our little iPhones and our gaming machines, but all of those same technologies are now in the building spaces. So artificial intelligence are giving us analytics and apps so that we can manage buildings and spaces. Robotics are replacing some of the tedious processes for building people. There's such things as smart buildings that know that to close windows and shades on one side of the building and open them on the other as the sun moves across the sky. Obviously, there's telepresence, and we've all lived through Zoom. And then there's the new technologies in solar and wind, and electric transport, and spaces that have urban agriculture. So unleash your full potential. So this is a sort of step ladder to show you the various ways that people get into facilities management. So you might start out as a trade person, and a carpenter, an HVAC technician. And if you're like many of us, as you begin to go through your career, you're asked to do more things. So you move into being the coordinator of these trades. And then suddenly you might be the team leader, the supervisor, the manager. And that leads all the way up to the vice president and maybe the chief facility officer. And as you can see, the salary ranges are quite lucrative as you move up this ladder. There's quite a gender balance within FM. Men clearly outnumber the women at the moment, but as you will see, there are more and more women moving into the field. It also allows women to move quickly through the field, and their full potential and work could add as much as 28 trillion to the annual GDP by 2025. And diversity matters to companies. Companies are 15% more likely to perform better if they are gender diverse. So where do people come from various backgrounds into facilities management? So this screen actually speaks directly to me, because I have an undergraduate degree in occupational therapy, and I worked in the New York State Department of Mental Health for many years, and then moved into other jobs. And as I moved along, I always was the person who was called upon to take care of the facility. So as you can see, people come from architecture, engineering, construction management, life safety, environmental, energy management, business management, IT. If you're someone that really likes to do gaming, the facility management world is wide open to new apps which really rely on gaming platforms. And then there are different degrees. There are certificate degrees that you can get, the essentials of FM, or the facility management professional certificate, which is a 2-year degree, plus those certificates. Or if you've been working with experience, you can get those certificates. There's also 4-year degrees. There's just a straight 4-year degree. There's 4-year degrees in technology that you might then get a certified facility manager, which is usually something for somebody who's been working in the field for a number of years. And then there are graduate programs in facility management. And many of these graduate programs are also doing research along with industry about how to better manage and operate their facilities. So these are some of our partnerships. We have a JobNet on the IFMA job board. We have internships. We do student scholarships and student challenges for people at the college level. We have a host of registered degree programs. We now have a accredited degree programs across the board. And we also just entered into a contract with the U.S. Department of Labor to provide apprenticeships in some of the states. So we're working through the states to get apprenticeships with companies throughout the U.S. So this is like a typical path for many of folks who are, say, in their 40s, late 40s and 50s, still working in facility management. They might start as a mechanical engineer and then become a facility planner, along with getting a certificate, a facility management, a professional certificate. Some of them go into doing consultant work. They might get the sustainable facility certificate, facility planning certificate. There's other FM training that you can get. And then as you progress, you might become a certified facility manager, which is somebody who has a proven history working in facility management and many years of service. If you graduate from one of our accredited degree programs, you get to put this nice little badge, the FMG, Facility Management Graduate, on your business card or on your email. And as you can see, the salaries are incremental increases as you go through your career and get more credentials. Currently, the IFMA Foundation sponsors these 4 training and credentialing platforms: Essentials of FM, Facility Management Professional, the Certified Facility Manager, and the Sustainability Facility Professional. So each of them have a slightly different bend. The first 2 are kind of entry-level certificates that people have. And these are, in addition to a college degree, really help people in their career path. And then the other two are sort of acknowledgement that you've been a professional in the world of facility management for a number of years. Okay, so that's kind of the full scope of what you can do in facilities management. Our folks tend to work in a variety of businesses, from working for smaller not-for-profits, who maybe you would be managing a residential facility, to, as you see what James will talk about later, working for a Netflix or Meta or a big finance company like Liz. So welcome to this introduction to facility management. Okay.
Very good, Regina. Thank you for that overview. So hopefully we have a more clear idea of what facilities management entails. And I want to, again, welcome all of our students and staff. We have over 120 students and schools represented today. So thank you all for being here. And a reminder, please drop all of your questions into the chat. We want to hear from you. One of our students says, that was a great overview, Regina. All right, so let's ask some very, very pointed questions, and don't ask, hey, how much money you make. Listen, all you need to know is that all of our panelists today make more money than me. That's all that really matters, all right? Let's try to get into some of the other details though. Now, I want to turn this over to Alex. So Alex, I don't know about you, but I don't know if the average person wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to do facilities management for a living. I want to hear from you. How exactly did you end up in this career path? Is this something you learned about back in high school or college? Can you just walk us through your career trajectory and how you ended up in your current role? Alex, if you're there, you need to unmute. Nope. Okay. All right, Alex, no problem. All right, we'll get back to you. All right, Jose, I'm going to turn it over to you. A lot of times you can go by the chat box. We see that I asked the question about what comes to mind when we think about facilities management. I don't really think Facebook comes to mind for a lot of young people. So can you tell us about how exactly is Meta or Facebook, how exactly is your company connected to facilities management? What exactly is your role?
Sure. Facilities management is, it's something that is so more relatable than what people think. So I just want to stop there first, because if you're sitting right now in a structure and you have 4 walls behind you, or maybe you don't, but you have a comfortable environment, you don't feel too hot or too cold, or maybe you do, you might have to adjust the temperature, you might have to turn on the light, turn off the light. So it's more relatable than you think. When most people think about Meta, they think, oh, you have offices. We have offices across the world. And the facilities team, what we are there, we're basically culture carriers. We're ensuring that the top talent in the company is able to come in every single day and have a comfortable and safe, most importantly, safe work environment. And that's everything from ensuring that they have clean spaces and amenities. If for Meta itself, it's food. We make sure that the employees have food, showers, all the amenities that they need to be able to come to work and get their work done comfortably. And sometimes, people don't think about it, but some of the greatest features, some of the greatest ideas come about because the engineers feel, the software engineers in the company feel that they're coming to a place where they can really do their best thinking in the most comfortable environment. So, that's how, facilities, is ran at Facebook. We take a lot of pride in our offices to ensure that they are the best places, that everyone wants to, be in the office and work out of there. Of course, there's new elements of the pandemic that is going to change the way we work, but we're not pivoting from wanting our offices to be the best workplaces in the world, and ensuring as a facilities team that we bring that forward to the employees and the company as a whole.
All right, very good, Jose. And again, Jose, he works at Meta, formerly known as Facebook, for those of you who are asking. All right, Alex, if your audio difficulties have been resolved, we'd love to hear from you how you ended up in facilities management. You're still muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. So I fell into the profession very similarly to Regina. My background is actually in architecture. I went to the High School of Art and Design. From there, went to college for architecture and thought I was going to be an architect forever. And what happened was, as soon as I got into an architectural studio, I just realized it wasn't for me. I didn't want to be behind a computer. I like drafting and I like being on the field and actually seeing things get built. So from there, I just ventured off and did project management, construction management. I worked in hospitals. I've worked in homeless shelters. I've worked building playgrounds. So, and actually went into furniture design as well. So I kind of did a little bit of everything. And what ended up happening is, after about 15 years of just hopping around and figuring out what I wanted to do, I came to my first financial firm as a designer for them, just doing kind of on-demand test fits and like designs. And slowly what ended up happening is like, they just started asking, hey, Alex, can you help out overseeing this? Alex, could you go talk to these folks? Their heaters, they are having heating issues. Could you find out what's happening? Or, hey, Alex, we want to convert a conference room into 2 offices. Could you start working with the contractor, electrician, mechanical guy, and find out how we can get that done? So I would definitely say it's something that slowly the progression went from 1 year to 2 years, and then all of a sudden I was just in facilities, just like that. And, talking to the multiple people, professionals that were there. And so I don't think that, I think nowadays it's easier to say I want to do facilities management because it's getting more recognized. But when I started 20 years ago, it wasn't something that was there, right? For the most part, I think everyone that I've spoken to has always just kind of fell into it. It was something that was very natural. I think that if you like learning, if you have, or, you like talking to people, you like being a problem solver, then facilities management is a really good thing for you, because facilities management is all about problem solving. No 2 days are ever alike. You're constantly always on the move, trying to figure things and who do I need to call to get this fixed? So to me, that was very exciting because it wasn't boring. Every day is slightly different for me, which I needed in my life, right? So.
All right, Alex, you seem to have a lot of fans in the chat box. So she's a married woman, guys. All right, so Alex, I noticed that in your biography, you mentioned that you have architecture as your background. We do have a lot of architecture students on the call. What exactly is the connection between architecture and what you do, if any? So what kind of advice do you have for somebody who you're currently studying architecture, they want to get into FM? What are the connections, and what advice do you have for them?
There is definitely a very strong connection. You cannot do architecture and practice designing without knowing how your facilities work, right? I can design a nice space, but if I do not know how lighting works, how the electrical works, how the mechanical works, I am basically designing a space that the person will not be able to work in, right? So between architecture and facilities management, I think that while we like to look at designing spaces, like I said, it's critical you understand how it works. You need to be able to partner with these folks that you're going to be working with, whether it's an engineer or your lighting consultant or an electrician, to make sure that your design actually becomes successful, right? You want something to not just be on paper, but come to fruition. So I think that if you have an architectural background, knowing facilities is kind of hand in hand, whether you go for a certificate or you basically partner with someone's facilities. Like, let's say me partnering with Jose, if we worked in the same company, it has to be in sync, right? And I think it's just a very natural progression. Having an architectural degree opens it up even more, right? Because aside from facilities, there's the aspect of leasing, there's the aspect of corporate real estate like James does. So in any one of these fields, you will venture out. There's always a synchronology that happens between all these fields.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Alex. All right, next, I want us to hear from James. Now, James, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a similar impression as I did with Jose when I first met him, because again, facility management, I'm not thinking about Netflix. When I think about Netflix, I'm thinking about Power. I'm thinking about the different shows that we stream. I'm thinking about different movies. That's what I think about when I hear about Netflix. So what exactly is the connection between facilities management and Netflix? And just tell us more about your role.
So I manage more of the corporate spaces, and we even have movie theaters. So, I even manage the movie theaters as well. So the studio spaces I partner with, but if you think about all those movies and shows that you see, Power and where those ideas come from, or I have spaces where I build for animators, so that they can create their stories and ideas. Those are spaces that I manage so that they can continue to entertain the world. So I think when you think about use Power, I'll stick with Power since to use that example. They'll sometimes come to I'll create green rooms in our offices so that they can do photo ops, or sometimes they'll do some Q&As from our actual offices for things that you see on the internet. So it is definitely connected to just making sure that they can focus on entertaining the world, and we kind of make sure that Netflix can grow globally. So that's why I mentioned I manage Latin America. We're trying to grow down there and be local. We're trying to have local stories, local content, our local people, so that we can connect with the world.
Excellent. Thank you all. You guys are doing a very, very good job. I'm just going to read a couple of comments that I saw in the chat box. One student said, Jose, the kind of pride you take in your work is very inspirational to me. And we have somebody else that says, I enjoy socializing and working as a team. From what I hear from you, I believe facility management is for me. Wow. So you're winning the crowd over, folks. All right. So some of the questions that came up in the chat, and I'll just throw this out to any of the panelists. Are there any certifications, any credentials that you recommend? I know Regina mentioned a few in the overview, but some of the students want to know, for you personally, Alex or James or Jose, or even you, Regina, you can also jump in as well. Any specific certifications you recommend for high school students to pursue?
Yeah, Regina, do you want to take that one, or?
Yeah, so I mean, the basic one is the Essentials of FM, which is about a 45-hour course study that you can actually go on the IFMA website and sign up for it as an individual. We are working with the New York City chapter of IFMA, which all these folks are involved in, to bring these programs to workforce development programs and also to get them into the high schools and the community colleges. The East Coast is a little bit slower than the rest of the country, in particular California, who are really embedding these programs into high schools and to community colleges. So anyone who's interested in that, please reach out to me, and we would love to sort of create some more programs. So that's kind of a basic overview program that gets you started in facility management. And then you can take sustainable facility professional, and you can take the FMP at the same time. You don't need a formal education to do that. The other thing to know is that in the New York area, there are undergraduate degrees in facilities management at New York City Tech, SUNY Farmingdale, and the Maritime Academy. So those are particular programs in degrees. The program here at Pratt is a master's program, so for high schoolers, it's not relevant at this time. But those are the three programs in the area, and I would say that those are the ones that are have the right cost point for people who are maybe first generation college bound folks. It's CUNYs and SUNYs, and then there's some other schools. So if you go on to the IFMA website, which I also posted in the chat, you can find other programs if you're interested in going away to college.
Thank you, Regina.
Regina, also, the Essentials of FM is a really good introductory, right? I think I'm an instructor for that course, but I'll say it's a crash course, kind of walking you through all the different disciplines that are involved in it. So really, it kind of gives you a good lessons learned, right? Is this something that I want to continue to go with? Then maybe you take the Essentials of FM, then go to college because you found an interest in it and you feel that this is something that you want to dive in, for the next 2 to 4 years.
Thank you, Alex. Anyone else want to jump in?
I just want to say that there's no real wrong way. So if I talk about my career, I accidentally fell into it when I was in college. I did not know about facilities management. I wanted to be an architect. I was the youngest of 3. My brother and sister went to Brooklyn Tech. I didn't want to go there because they went there, so I went to Stuyvesant. So I tried to do drafting, and basically my sophomore year, the program I wanted to do, which was more human factors, was getting cut. So I had to make a decision: go to another school or pick another major. And the dean of architecture said, we're starting this new program called facilities management, where you can take classes from the School of Business, Architecture, and Engineering. I took that. Still thinking I wanted to be an architect, but at least I knew I could get a job after I graduated. I've kind of stuck to it ever since. So I think when people think about careers, like I'm at Netflix now, but I started the American Red Cross. So nonprofit, I went to nonprofit because I wanted to get the experience. Think about where you can get the experience. And I've also lived in many countries, for my job. So if you are thinking about a job, it may not be in New York. So I just want to make sure that keep your mind open, that you may work in Hong Kong or London like I have, or move to LA like I just did.
Yeah, thank you, James. All right, we actually have some culinary students on the call. I've never heard this question before, but some of the students are wondering, I'm studying culinary now. Is there any sort of overlap between culinary education and becoming a facilities manager?
Absolutely. So I'll take that one. So in all of the firms that I've worked at, we actually have in-house kitchens. So what ends up happening is having a facilities background works very well, because you do have to maintain your kitchen, right? You have inspections. You have to basically make sure that you are training your staff, you're managing staff, you're ordering all of the produce, right? But really upkeeping that kitchen is integral. And part of that is facilities, right? So it really does go hand in hand. The building is every component within it. And if there's a kitchen, then culinary students, you're more than welcome.
All right, terrific. I just learned something today. Hello, High School for Energy and Technology. I see you all.
I just wanted to jump in because I may have mentioned food. And so for Meta, for tech companies, the food is such an important component. And actually, the facilities team at Meta is responsible for ensuring that all of our kitchens have, grade A ratings. And so that's extremely important, because when a kitchen goes down, the engineers are not happy and productivity lessens. And so that's, for some companies, it may be more critical than others, but a great understanding of kitchen equipment, et cetera, will be certainly helpful for a facility manager to support and ensure that, they have all the skills to troubleshoot.
All right, excellent. All right, so I learned something today. All right, so for all of you culinary students, you see that there's definitely an intersection there between what you're studying and FM. All right, I don't know if I'm asking this question correctly. I'm gonna try my best, but one of our students wants to know, is your organization involved in any sort of fundraising, or do you guys do any sort of community engagement type activities? I mean, we're doing this today, but I mean, other than our career days, is there any sort of fundraising or community engagement type activities your company is involved in?
I'm not sure if I completely understand the question, but short answer is yes, but it's definitely led by, we call them employee resource groups, different groups. So we may have a woman at group or a Black at group, or different types of groups that will kind of engage in an activity, and then Netflix will support it. So lots of it, the ideas come from us, and Netflix will support it, if I understood the question correctly.
All right, great. Thank you, James. All right,
so
wow.
The other fundraising that does happen on the New York chapter and also on the national level with IFMA is that we fundraise for scholarships for students to go to programs, to accredited programs. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we have been applying for grants under the U.S. Department of Labor for workforce development programs. And so those kinds of funds we do raise for. So I would say the fundraising that we do goes directly to creating the future workforce.
Okay, great. All right, Regina, we see some folks want your phone number. They want to learn more about facilities management from you.
I put it in the chat, so.
That's why he does have issues, because.
All right. Okay, so Miss Mercado is getting kind of excited over there. All right, so this is a very, we see that some of our students are fiscally minded. All right, I'm gonna throw this out to the panel. What is the cost benefit ratio of the current career that you're doing? So we're talking about the amount of money you paid for your college education versus your current career. Did the cost benefit analysis work out for you guys? I don't know if that's a bit too personal or not, but some of the students want to know if facilities management is worth it based on the cost of the degree versus what you're making now.
So this is Alex. I would say it really depends on you and where your trajectory is, right? As with any job that you get, the more you work and the more you show effort and the more involvement you get, the higher you start climbing, right? So the higher you climb, the larger the salary. If you're fine, that's not to say that if you're fine at a certain level and you don't want to keep going into managerial, by all means, you're fine, right? Everyone has that plateau or goal that they want to hit. So I think that yes, there is a cost benefit. You will get your money's worth. It's really up to you to decide how quickly you want to get there and how much effort you want to put into it. That's the best way I can kind of
And
say
that's,
it.
I made a point of saying I started a nonprofit because clearly I was not making as much at a nonprofit, but I wanted those skills. And that would help me propel me to whatever other industries I wanted. So I do think you have to focus on the experience first.
Well, and also with the, I mean, I started out in nonprofits too, and I think that the trade-off is sometimes in nonprofit, you get that sort of immersed experience that you don't get when you work in the corporate world. You also get maybe a trade-off in terms of benefits, excuse me, that are different than in the corporate world. And you might have a different lifestyle because you might not be as, your time is demanded as much. So those are kinds of personal decisions that you make along the way. And I just put in the chat that some of the decisions people make to go into FM is that they've been tradespeople for a number of years. And you know what, their knees are giving out, their back is giving out, and they realize, hey, if I have the experience to sit in a classroom and to be able to get this degree. That'll move me into a different class of employee. So that's another thing that happens. I mean, clearly right now the plumbers are making more money than doctors. So, but there's also a path that you can go from being a plumber into something more corporate.
Right, very good.
Agreed. And I would say, and one last thing that I would say, Gav, is I think that with facilities management, it's one of those professions where there will always be a job. Think of every building and every space within a building needs a facilities manager, right? So if you start thinking about the volume of positions that are around, there is always a need for a facilities manager. So it's one of those professions that as soon as you graduate college, you will find a job in the field that you studied, right? Or even if you fall into it, you will always have a position there. And I think, Regina, what is it? Correct me if I'm wrong, it's about, we're looking in the next 10 years, right? Over 50% of baby boomers will be retiring. So think about that. We're looking to try to backfill 50% of the workforce right now. That's an astronomical amount of people that we're looking to try to get into facilities management.
Right, and obviously these high school students aren't familiar with what we used to call K-210 when we thought the whole world was going to explode at the millennium. We call it grade 210, you know, it's like we're all graying out. So we need a new workforce. We also need a workforce that's technically savvy. And I think the thing is, this generation of folks have all grown up with computers, and it's a completely different world. I have one graduate who's just working on developing apps for facilities management. So there's research opportunities. You can go from being the person who manages the greet staff in a major building, or you can be the person who's doing the apps to control the building comfort level. So it's a wide range of things that you can do.
Right, we're seeing a lot of thumbs up in the chat box as you folks are speaking. The students from Bronx Design and Construction Academy, they want to know that what are the challenges that each of you face in the job that you do?
I can start here. There's challenges on a daily basis because facility managers are problem solvers. You'll find that most departments who are having any issue will first start with the facilities department. Sometimes it could be an IT related issue, but they always come to the facilities department because we'll always be that traffic controller, or we just may address the issue on our end. But you can have anything from a flood one morning unexpectedly at 3 in the morning. You might get a phone call that, you know, there's a flood and you might have to, you know, address it and get, you know, some remediation work in there. It could be space issues. For example, maybe the company's growing too much and we don't have enough space. So then we would work with like Alex's team on the transactions to ensure that we're able to get space. So that's another like problem. So if you like Alex said, every day is never the same. I woke up this morning thinking I had a plan, but I have several kind of things going on that I have to address before getting back to my day job. And I think that's one of the most exciting things that I love about facilities management, that I like the element of surprise, and I like to see how I perform under pressure to solve those problems. So if you want to be the Superman of your job or Superwoman, you know, this is facility management is for you.
All right, thanks, Jose. Anyone else? Our students would like to know, what are the challenging aspects of your job?
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Jose. I mean, it's super challenging. I mean, if you ask me that, I would still be trying to make sure that we could make these wonderful shows on Netflix with COVID. You know, I don't think people realize all the things we have to do to keep people safe and make those productions safe and all of that. That's kind of, it's exciting, but it's also challenging. That's a good word to use. So I think COVID has been something that all of us have had to deal with to make sure that our workplace is safe.
I would suggest that the biggest challenge is how you take a building with different personalities and make sure they're all comfortable. I think that's the biggest challenge, is that not only are you taking care of the building, but you've got to field the concerns of the people in the office space or in the home space or the recreation space. And that's one of the biggest challenges, probably the biggest skill set that is really needed for facilities management, because the technical side, you can kind of pick up along the way, you can take courses, but if you don't have the personality to sort of be able to, as Jose says, problem solve and roll with the punches, if you will, it really can be challenging. And in every workplace, the facility manager could probably name the 10 people who cause them the most grief on a daily basis. But it's fun and entertaining along the way.
Yeah, thank you, Regina. And Regina, you're getting some compliments in the chat box. And some
No, I see this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my show on the road.
Some of these students are funny. All right. I had another question here that I overlooked for a second. All right, some of the students want to know, how does sustainability connect to the work that you do?
Well, mostly we all have to deal with local regulations about how we operate buildings, and you know, all the sustainability regulations that are coming down the pike. The other thing is that we want to run efficient buildings that are healthy buildings. And so all of that enters into both the design and the operations of the facility.
Yeah. And even for each company, I would say every company has their own goals as far as sustainability, right? So it may be reducing paper, it may be the way the compost is done, it may be a multitude of things, right? So as a facility manager, it's really trying to understand what is your company trying to accomplish, and then do we have the current practices in play, or do I need to change, you know, whether it's the efficiency of lights. So what do I need to do? And it's up to me as a facility manager to come to the table and say, here are the things that I think we can do to try to reach those goals. So it's really important that as a facility manager, you're constantly not just talking to the people that are around you, but also to the people that are above you. What are you planning? How can we help you with that, right?
Great. All right, thank you, Alex. All right, some of the students are saying that college is not for them. What do you specifically recommend for me? They sound interested in facilities management, but they don't want to go the college route. What advice do you have?
I would think that they should look into some of the certificates that might help them. And then also really look at the jobs, maybe get a certificate in HVAC and then move further into facility management. Those are the trade schools are out there that you can get a specific degree in, not degree, I mean a certificate for. But you know, start with maybe the essentials of FM, and I'm actually working 2 screens here. I'm going to put it in the chat as soon as I find it for people to do that.
I agree with Regina. I think essentials of FM would be kind of the first step. Or any other certification, you know, if you're an electrician, try to get certified in that, HVAC. And I think that it's a matter really of going online. You can go through IFMA website for New York City. There are postings that you can find of jobs, you know, whether it be an apprentice or whether it be a facility coordinator, starting off your job as a coordinator, and just kind of learning the ropes from there. So I think it's one of those fields where you don't necessarily need to have a college level if that's not for you, right? College is not for everyone. There's definitely ways of getting into it. So I think that having Regina as a source to kind of be able to provide that is definitely a good thing.
I would say that if you want to move up, just make sure that you're investing in how you communicate. You know, if you're not comfortable communicating with people, that's something that is a really important skill. Where Regina mentioned, you know, sometimes you have to deal with difficult clients, everything else. So just think about communications, and if you have that as a gap, how can you fill that void?
All right, great. Thank you all. And for all the students who are asking these questions, Regina just dropped a link in the chat box. And if there are any other pertinent links that our panelists have to share, we will be emailing everybody those links so that you can take a look. All right. So Regina, maybe, I don't know, is it possible to share your slides? Regina, some of the students they want to have a grasp of the career pathway, or if there's any other links that you can give to me, just be sure to give those to me so that I can email it out to the school. All right.
Sure.
All right. So, and for the students who are asking, what is the Zoom meeting about? We are talking about careers and facilities management from some of our guest speakers from Blackstone, Meta, Pratt Institute, and Netflix. All right. So for all of you students who are asking, what are the opportunities? How do I join? We will send out some resources and links for you. All right. Any other questions? I did ask this to the panelists before, but just to put it out there, if for our panelists, if there are any internships or any sort of programs that are student related, whether it's high school level or college level, our schools would love to know about that. All right. So that's also, if you come across any information pertaining to that, please feel free to share with us. One of our students wants to know, do you guys offer stocks? Does your company offer stocks?
They do, depending on the company. Not all do. The financial firms that I have offer after a certain level, meaning once you're above a director or a VP, that's when you start getting offered stock options. So definitely an opportunity.
Yep. So, you know, if you actually Google Blackstone stock quote or Meta stock quote, you'll actually see, and that's Alex, that's how I found out about Blackstone, by the way. It was through stocks because I'm very, very much into investments. All right. Some of the students, Jose, I think this one is for you. Some of the students want to know, are you the guy responsible whenever I post something and I'm in Facebook jail? What can I do to avoid getting into Facebook jail? Can you get me out?
That is not me, but I make sure, like I said, that individual that puts you in Facebook jail has everything he or she needs in the office to monitor our pages and ensure that they're safe. So.
All right, thanks, Jose. All right, James, this one is for you. What is your favorite show on Netflix?
Right now, it's probably Ozark.
Ozark. All right, do we have any Ozark fans in the chat box today? Okay, so we got some Ozark fans. All right, we got a lot of them. All right, I don't know if any of the panelists can answer this. Does facilities management involve welding in any way? Because we have some students who are interested in welding. Is there any sort of connection there to FM?
Yeah, I can jump in here. On the Meta side, we are looking, there's a Wellbeing Institute certification, and Meta is looking into that, especially, you know, because of the pandemic. We want to ensure that our spaces are, you know, very safe, you know, and it has to do with air and thermal temperature, and community engagement within the office and connection. So there's a lot more to well-being than it just being safe, but at least our company is absolutely looking to get that certification for all of our offices across the board, so that employees are assured a very comfortable and kind of, you know, wellness is up front.
All right, great. Thanks, Jose.
I also
yes.
think, I'm sorry, Gav, one thing to keep in mind, it also depends on the facility you're operating, right? I know facility managers that oversee airport hangars, that oversee mechanical, you know, garages. So those are different buildings that will require those trades to be on site, right, for assistance. So definitely, once again, it's really kind of all encompassing, right? Whatever field you're in right now, there probably is a need for it as a facility manager. It's just a matter of where.
Okay, thank you all very much. All right, so I think we can wrap up the discussion. I'm gonna leave it up to each of our panelists. I'd like you to just take a couple of minutes. Any final thoughts or any final recommendation, any final advice you have for our young people in high school?
Do I start? Who started?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'll say it's, if you don't know what what your career is going to be, that's okay. So I think that's the first thing you should know, because I think everyone on this call has changed careers since this point in their lives when they're in high school. So so it's okay. But I think being curious, wanting to be a problem solver, trying to see, I think experience and not salary in the beginning, to me, that was critical to my success. So I think that that's one thing that the money will come if you're passionate about what you do. So that's the advice I would give.
Great, thank you, James. Jose?
Yeah, the one skill, and I think Regina mentioned it, you know, as I've come up through the ranks in my career, and I've also done schooling, communication is, you know, very, very, very important. You know, facility managers are also somewhat like politicians as well. We have to understand the behaviors of every department, of every cross-functional team that you work with. And then you also have to be able to communicate, and, you know, tone and tact, diplomacy, that all matters. And so if you take one skill away, you know, from high school or anything, it's definitely, you know, write well, you know, speak well, and ensure that you understand, you know, communicative behaviors amongst one another.
Thank you, Jose. Alex?
I'm just going to regurgitate what everyone else said, so nothing else to add, really.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, so thank you all. Regina, did you have any last words?
Yeah, no, I think that the one thing to emphasize here is that, you know, this generation of folks are going to have like 10 different jobs before they're 35. And I think that, you know, we've all gone into different areas, and, you know, I think all of us have come to facility management from other backgrounds. And it's, you know, it's almost like a phrase, it's never too late to get into FM, you know, in some ways, because every background kind of relates. I mean, if you're a social scientist, you know, you've got to deal with people every day. If you're, you know, the person who has been taking care of the boiler, and now you understand how these systems work in relation to other systems in the building. I think you can come to facility management from a lot of different areas. And you don't have to come to it right away, but it is a lucrative area to work in. It's a fun area to work in. If you're a person that doesn't like to sit at a desk all day, it's you get your steps, is what I can say, for the most part, because you are out and problem solving on a daily basis. And, you know, sometimes it's frustrating, but most days it's exhilarating.
Great, thank you. All right, so on behalf of New York City Department of Education, I'd like to thank Alex, Regina, James, Jose. Thank you all for your time today. We had well over 150 students, and that's not even counting the classrooms where the panel was broadcast today. So thank you all for joining. We had lots of thumbs up, lots of compliments for all of the speakers, and to our panelists, I'm extending always an open invitation for you to be a part of our commissions, be a part of our advisory boards. You're always welcome. If at any time you want to speak more about your career, or you want to get involved in our various initiatives happening here at New York City Department of Ed, the door is always open for you. All right, so thank you all. And you see that there's a lot of thanks and a lot of compliments coming from the staff and students. So Regina, Alex, Jose, James, thank you all very much. And for all the students who are asking questions about links and what are my next steps, how do I pursue a certificate or a degree in FM, we'll be sure to email out that information to you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.